another example that we discussed before we started is All Creatures Great and Small, which is another incredibly well done BBC drama that Kate and I have talked about in the show before. We did a whole episode on side characters, Write Better Side Characters. We used that as an example because there's such great side characters in this show. But the slow burn romance is exceptional in All Creatures.
Very, very well done.
It's probably one of my favorite slow burn romances of all time because it's so well paced. Like, you never feel like this is rushing, but you also never feel like, oh, come on, when's something gonna happen? You know?
Right.
And the story starts out with, as far as the romance plot goes, we have James, who is the main protagonist of the show, who is a young vet who has come to work for Siegfried, his new employer in Yorkshire, the Yorkshire countryside. And so he comes to this cute, quaint little town, and it's kind of a lot of different misadventures and interesting scenarios take place, but he meets this young woman, Helen, who lives nearby.
I'm Helen.
Head it. James. Head it. Mr. Farnan's new assistant.
Another one.
And they start to kind of form a friendship before romance because she's actually romantically involved with someone else.
Could I see you sometime? I'm sorry, I shouldn't have.
It's not that, it's just...
This is where you're hiding.
And engaged to him, right?
Right.
At some point,
Eventually
at some point she gets engaged to this other guy.
You asked me today. We're getting married.
But the wedding ends up not happening, and I won't spoil the whole show in case you go watch it, because you should definitely go watch it. But
all around lovable show.
Yeah, yeah. To spoil one thing, James and Helen do end up together, obviously, but their romance is perfectly paced because, like, all throughout season 1, you know that Helen is supposed to be with this other guy, but there's something between her and James that's, like, undeniable. It's undeniable to them and the viewer just can feel their chemistry so much and wants them to be together.
You'd make a complete fool of yourself for me.
Every single day.
Last night was the first time in a long time that I felt like myself again.
And because there's this other sort of deviation, or I guess sort of like a something keeping the characters apart for the first season, it creates this really nice slow burn pace that makes it not feel frustrating at all, because you're like, okay, I can see where this is going. You know, there's this other scenario. It's kind of a love triangle, actually, in a way. But it's not too intense of a love triangle, but we have this force that's keeping these two characters apart for, like, pretty much all of season 1. And then throughout season 2, we start to see, you know,
more development.
And then the pace gets a little bit quicker.
I've missed you.
Missed you too.
But the pace really stays very much
super even.
Yeah, very even throughout the whole series, in that each episode feels like you have a little bit of progression, just enough to make you satisfied, make you want to see more, but never like we've slowed to a stop and now, you know, James and Helen aren't even interacting in this episode and we feel like nothing's changing. There's always something changing, whether it's some scenario that James gets involved in and it creates conflict between Helen and her fiance, and, you know, like little conflicts that create drama and create a better story.
You been called out?
Susie's having trouble with her pups.
Do you mind if I come with you? Anything to take my mind off it all.
You can't try filming this.
I'll have it back in time. You have my word.
Right, and it's actually a great example, too, of using the main plot to actually create conflict within the relationship. So there's like lots of, because this is a show based around the stories of these veterinarians going and, you know, helping out animals. A lot of they actually artfully use the different cases that he's experiencing with animals to like create drama within the romance in really unique ways that you wouldn't even anticipate. Right. So it does such an excellent job of weaving that in, pulling from the main plot and infusing the romance with the main plot rather than it feeling like a side plot. It feels so central. And beyond that, also, it's still in keeping, like we were saying, with each of these characters has their own separate journeys. And it plays a huge part in the romance of James being a veterinarian, and he lives at Scaledale House, and he has this whole life and career that he's building for himself. And Helen lives with her family, her father and her younger sister, and she has all these responsibilities of helping to run the farm, and she feels very responsible for taking care of her family, and she doesn't even know what a life would look like outside of that. So they have these really unique journeys that they're both separately on, and it helps to create conflict with, okay, what would these two look like as a couple? How would they even navigate that with all these separate responsibilities they have? And how would those things overlapping or clashing create conflict? And they do an excellent job, the writers of that series, of creating so much conflict from the individual journeys.
Yeah, so true. It's very well done. Definitely go check it out because we think that you would love it. It's such a cozy show too.
It is very cozy.
It's like, I don't know who
soothing.
could not like it. It's very soothing. It's like a cup of warm tea.